most people aren't going to like this if they are mainly estate agents listening to this podcast. Estate agency, if you're pure estate agency, your business is not going to be worth a huge amount.
So just to, I guess, put you on the spot a little bit then. So let's say, for example, Joe Bloggs' high street office has been there for 20 years, charging, I don't know, 1% or less. Estate agency only, turns over 300 grand a year, makes 40 grand profit a year out of that. What's that, if someone's listening to this, what's a business like that worth with no lettings?
If it's a pure estate agency business, it's only worth...
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Complete Agent Podcast, where we get together each week to talk all things estate agency. My name is James Kendall and I'm joined by my industry colleagues and good friends as ever, David Warburton and Ian Story. And this week we have a very special guest, Lucy Noonan of Atomic Consultancy. How has everyone been this week? Good week, everyone?
Well, it's the week I've been waiting for, chaps. So when we were at the Mastermind last week, I was telling everyone how, we've had so many new instructions and it's, fantastic properties on the market, great fees, but then it feels like it's been a bit of a drought. And it's a combination really of putting loads and loads of houses on, time of year, people wanting to sell, but then not a massive amount of sales in the last sort of 3 weeks. But then this week has been superb. So we've agreed sales on 7 from 400 to 1.26. And we've had 2 second viewings on both of our ones at 2 million. And one of those I know in particular went very well yesterday. So I'm going on holiday on Monday and the week has come at a great time for me.
Yeah, nice.
So it's been a really good week. We've been doing quite a few good shoots this week as well of new stuff coming on. So for me, it's been superb. Thanks, JK. And I can now go away on holiday thinking, good, I've banked a load of sales. And time to do some sunbathing.
Yeah, nice. It must have been 2 weeks since you've had a holiday. Dave, how about you, mate? How's the commentary going?
Right, yeah, well, it's going really well, thank you. Very, very well. This is ridiculous, but I'm having to hold my microphone really close to my face, just like Gerald Sinstadt. And if you don't know who Gerald Sinstadt is, look him up. He is a commentator for the BBC, or he was.
Does he have a tight back t-shirt and a big nose?
I know, this is the problem. If I put it on my mouth, you can just see my big bugle. I don't want that. It's a good job that it's a good job that this isn't a visual podcast. So don't. And I've noticed Ian's just taking a photo, so we know exactly where that's going later on. You set of bastards. Anyway, right. So yeah, my week very, very good. To be fair, a bit like Ian, we had a bit of a. Well, it's only the beginning of the month, isn't it? But a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about maybe a lack of sales or being a bit slow. But we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 sales in like the last 7 to 10 days, which is
brilliant,
fabulous. Instructions are brilliant. We've got 18 either done or in photography. All great instructions, great fees. So, and sales ranging from like bottom end at 475 up to 1.2 million. So some nice stuff in there, like in that gold range that we always talk about. And another thing that we're kind of putting a bit of focus on at the moment, we've spoken about stock levels, haven't we, over the last few weeks? And stock levels for us are, I won't say high, but there's a few bits of sticky stock. And, not yesterday, a couple of days ago, I went to have a client meeting, in-house client meeting, which I'd highly recommend to people, and, secured a really good reduction on a £1.25 million house, which I think is now saleable. I've got another meeting booked in with someone Monday with a house that's sticking a little bit, and generally just going through the stock and trying to load up those reductions at the moment, because as we've said, July and August are key months if you want to finish the year strong. So we're looking to get as much in the pipeline as we can before 1st of September. That's the plan. So it's been good, all good. What about you, JK?
Yeah, again, I'll keep it brief. The sales-wise, we've had a really good month so far. We'll say really good month so far. We've really just got out the blocks, but it's nice to have potentially got 3-4 deals on the table already this week. Had a really good day yesterday. Signed up a 1 point. It's very funny. I've never done a sale in this village ever. That's probably about 10, 15 minutes away. And then yesterday, I signed 2 people up. A farm on 2.5 2.3 million pound farm on 7 acres, and then a manor house at 1.75, and obviously both really good fees. One of them's got access to 60 acres. I said I've never sold a house in that village before in my life. Been through it on the train before. It's Harlington, if you've ever been on the train before in Bedford. But signed 2 really nice places up yesterday. Got lots going on, lots kind of bubbling, which is good. But good all round. How about you, Lucy? How's your week been?
Yeah, better than last week. I was all over the place last week. So I was in London 3 days, I think, last week. So back in the office trying to broker some deals. Similar, we've had a few that in the brokering market, we invite offers to a set date. Unfortunately, recently, whilst we have a closing date, we've had a lot of counter offers because there's been a lot of competition for some of the ones that we've recently brokered. So just having to manage those and not go into a bidding war for 2-3 weeks. But it's a busy time for us in the next 2 weeks, really, because most buyers, solicitors for us in the brokering space, August is normally a really quiet month because solicitors go on holiday for 2 weeks. So on buy side, and then ironically it'll be the sell side, seller solicitors on the last 2 weeks in August. So we normally do a 4-week marketing campaign when we launch businesses to the market. But from next Monday, we'll be doing it as 6 weeks. So it just allows us that time. So, but yeah, all good.
Nice. Well, I'll formally introduce you to the podcast, and we'll get into it. So, this week's Chat GPT intro. Hopefully, it goes well. So, welcome to the show. Today, we're delighted to be joined by Lucy Noonan, founder and director of Atomic Consultancy, one of the UK's most dynamic property mergers and acquisition specialists. Lucy has built an extraordinary business in just 3. You can tell I didn't write this because I'm stumbling over the words.
I like it. Keep going.
Sorry, excuse me. Lucy's built an extraordinary business in 3 years. 97 completed deals worth over 20 million.
147, actually.
147 completed deals worth. See, I mean, this is ChatGPT for you. So, starting as a sales negotiator at Hunters back in 2002, Lucy's worked her way through virtually every sector of UK property, from Countrywide's corporate machine between 2006 and 2009 to launching innovative VIP brands at places like Smiles All Round, then diversifying into construction with the National Federation of Builders, social housing at Yorkshire Housing, then returning to her roots at Belvoir and LSL's acquisition team, and finally the corporate rollout machine at Lomond Group. Is that Lomond? Lomond, sorry. And here you are now with Atomic Consultancy with 137?
47.
100. Come on.
147
Don't forget the 10.
sales. I can edit this. I'll edit it so I look like I'm finesse. So, welcome to the podcast. We've got loads of questions to ask you. First of all, do you want, obviously I gave a bit of an overview. Like, do you want to do a bit of a what's your name, where'd you come from, and sort of talk us through what that looked like? So you started as a negotiator. How did you start as a sales negotiator and then end up as a mergers and acquisitions specialist?
Yeah, well, I started a week after my 16th birthday as a weekend negotiator for Hunters. So I used to do the cricket tees for the Hollin Rakes, who were the original owners of Hunters estate agents. I used to babysit the Hollin Rakes kids. So that was basically it. It wasn't like, God was like, I want to work in an estate agent. It was like, let's do some pocket money. And I was in a little branch outside of York called Hunters. But I was there for pretty much 5 years. And whilst I was at uni, they were stupid, really. At 19 years old, they gave me a Mini and sent me to Manchester. And it was their first office that they had in Deansgate. 19-year-old coming from a really small village outside of York, being put up in a hotel from Sunday to Thursday, right next door to Harvey Nicks, and seeing the nightclub and night scene. Probably not their best idea, but it was a great experience. Like, I remember one day, Gary Neville, I didn't know who he was, came in to view an apartment, and I asked him what his job role was, because we were asked what. You weren't allowed to show him these apartments. It was called The Edge at the time. And I says, oh, right. So it was a great experience. And I learned things like don't judge a book by its cover.
Yes.
For sure there.
What was that like then? So you showed Gary Neville around a place then? Like that was... What was that like? Was it quite a
It
normal
was,
guy?
do you know what? He was a really nice guy, but you'll probably get to know. I'm quite confident. And he asked if I said, "Oh, my brother really likes Manchester United." He goes, "Oh, do you want my autograph then?" And I went, "No, do you want mine?"
I love that.
So I didn't sell the house, didn't sell the apartment to Gary at the time, but obviously he's done loads in Manchester now. But and then went off to uni, did management studies, but was always still working in a estate agency. And then I dropped out in my last semester. I did go back a few years later to finish it off, but I got onto the MDP programme at Countrywide.
Yeah.
And 20 years ago, the management development programme there was incredible. It was very intense. You had to do you had to book 10 viewings a day, 2 valuations a day, 2 financial services appointments. You weren't allowed a computer on your desk. You had a red box. You were only allowed 20 people in your red box.
Yeah.
So it was very, very, very intense. But I learned a huge amount in that space of time, and then became a branch manager at 21, just outside of York, called Acomb, and then into York. So it was a great footing, and it was a really great the people that worked at Countrywide at the time, we were a really close-knit team. So I bought my first house at 21 with another negotiator back at Hunters. You were allowed to get 150% mortgages then, and they took your commission. I look back now and I'm like, what the hell were we doing? But
how on earth did we get in a global financial crisis?
I know, crazy, right? I remember them allowing us, I think we were allowed a mortgage of like 250. We didn't. We bought a house at 125 grand. But I think I was on a 9 grand basic, and then everything was commission.
Yeah.
And I look back now and I go, what? I mean, you just think, wow, you can see why the crash happened.
Yeah.
So worked in, obviously big independent corporate, and then went into various other kind of roles. And then you mentioned I went to work then into lettings. So my first dip into lettings was a company called Smiles All Round.
Yeah.
Great, strong name. So the owner,
everyone was really happy there, were they? Was it a happy place to work?
it was. So the owner of Smiles All Round used to work at Disney. She was the marketing director for Disney UK.
Yeah.
So then obviously she then thought that customer service was lacking in a estate agency. So she launched Smiles. And then she also owned the red boats in York, and they're all over the country now. The boats that tours that go up.
Yeah, the tours.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So completely different. And they wanted me to launch lettings. They only were estate agents at the time. And I just thought, I've never done lettings before. Launched lettings, and also then we launched a brand called VIP. So it was called Very Unique, Very Individual Property.
Can I ask a bit more about that and just drill down on that? Because, obviously I want to get into Atomic Consultancy and what the landscape looks like now. But obviously in The Complete Agent, we help agents in the mid to high end of the market. And I'm just interested that, so that was 2009-ish? Would that be about right?
Maybe, yeah.
What did that look like? What was your kind of, really briefly, what was your process? Because you're setting it up from scratch. They've got an established brand there with lettings. They're launching that sort of VIP property. What was your kind of plan, and how did that kind of unfold?
Well, I think we learned a lot from it, because I think everybody thinks that their property is VIP.
Yeah.
Regardless of the value. So the VIP brand initially, I think, was a challenge, because we'd go out to do a valuation of a 3-bedroom semi, traditional house worth 250, 300 in York.
Yeah.
And, immaculate. We knew we could really easily sell it in a great location, but the VIP brand very much was was what we were wanting to go to the higher end of the market. So properties at least above 750. But they would see our VIP boards, and a lot of the time potential sellers will be calling us out because they like the idea of being a VIP. So actually being able to manage through a valuation process whether you are a VIP or not, but still win the instruction of the traditional business that was our bread and butter, I would say was challenging at first, but we managed to overcome that. But it was successful, and so much so they Smiles All Round actually sold out.
Nice.
And they actually retained that brand element of the brand. They didn't retain Smiles All Round, but they then used the VIP section. So I'd say brand is really important in. I think in a estate agency. So even in the acquisition space, businesses that are acquiring, say, student lettings businesses, they tend to keep the brand. of the student lettings business if they are predominantly private rented sector. And that's just because brand value and Google reviews and reviews in the student lettings market tends to be lower than the private rented sector. So it's very similar really in estate agency. And, we see brands where they have two brands, but it's under the same company. So Your Move and Reeds Vanes, perfect example. 6 years ago, every single high street had a Your Move and a Reeds Vanes on the high street, but it was owned by the same company, but the general public didn't know that. And that was because the brands were very different and they were targeting different audiences. So I think brand is really important, but the VIP side did work incredibly well, but it was making sure that it was orchestrated in the right way.
It's interesting you say that. So since Connell's Group bought out Countrywide a while back, I'm not in Bedford, but Bedford's like one of the nearest towns to me. In Bedford, within, I would say, 40 metres of each other, you've got Taylor's, Wilson Peacock, Connell's, and William H. Brown, all on the same shop parade, all owned by the same company. Do you think that as time evolves and rents are up, do you think they'll slowly merge them in, or do you think that's the way things are going, or do you think they'll just keep it as is?
Not necessarily, no. I mean, Your Move and Reeds Vanes, they've completely changed their model now. They've gone to a franchise model. But when I was at LSL, there was a large project that I was involved with where we consolidated a lot of the brands. So, there wasn't always a Your Move and Reeds Vanes. But there's always, whilst in acquisitions, and you're going to ask me about value, I'm sure, is there a value to a brand? Unless you're 6 to 8 offices of a brand and market leaders and you're 1 to 2 in the market, there is no brand value from an acquisition perspective. But I think from an estate agency perspective, not from an exit perspective, not in acquisitions, but, the general public do not know that those 6 brands that you've just mentioned, James, are owned by the same company.
That's right, yeah.
So
I think there's a lot of estate agents that don't know as well, to be fair.
No, a lot of people don't. No.
So that could segue quite nicely into to asking that then. So I think a lot of people are quite, and I'm quite interested, and I've kind of got an idea, I suppose. But what is, how does, if an agent is listening to this, for example, and is thinking, right, well, I might exit in a year, I might exit in 5-10 years. Where do you start? Because you hear so many different things online. You can ask ChatGPT, what's my business work? But the reality is, you're the expert and you deal with this, 147 times you've done this just for yourself now in the last 3 years or 4 years. What does that look like? So if I'm, looking at my own business, and I obviously clearly need to be honest with myself in terms of what it is actually worth. If you've got, let's say, for example, a sales business, then let's say, for example, you've got a sales and lettings business, or and either or, if that makes sense.
So, unfortunately, most people aren't going to like this if they are mainly estate agents listening to this podcast. Estate agency, if you're pure estate agency, your business is not going to be worth a huge amount, unless, like I said, it's 6 to 8. And the reason for that, it's not necessarily that there's not buyers in the market that aren't interested in that. It's because funders don't like it. So funders do not like the cyclical nature that we have in estate agency. So, we have the peak in 2021, then we have the drop, then you have the peak again in March, April this year. So they don't like things going up and down because that's not steady. That's not contractual. What they really like, funders, and this is why the space in acquisitions has definitely changed in the last 2 to 3 years, is the funders, and we've been attracted by a lot of different funders, is they like the contractual nature that comes in from lettings, and that's mainly your managed and your rent collect, because that's guaranteed, it's residual, it's coming in every single month. You're banking 50k every single month. They can see that, and that is a good investment. That's a good purchase. Estate agency businesses, whilst you may have been there and established for 35 years, you're the market leader in that town. Someone acquiring that business, that pipeline could change. And unfortunately, the brand value is just not seen as the same. What we do say to a lot of business owners that are purely in estate agency is, if you are looking at your exit strategy 5 to 10 years from now, really focus on getting you're either an estate agent or you're a letting agent, and most letting agents that have become estate agents have done it by default and vice versa. But if you can get a lettings portfolio, the ideal, really what you want to be able to do is have a holding company, so a top co, And then you want separate limited companies underneath that. So estate agency, so Noonan Estates Limited, lettings, Noonan Lettings Limited, and then maybe financial services or anything else that you then put through. That then allows you the ability to either sell Topco, holding co with everything inside it, and depends on the size, if that would be attractive enough. But then at that point, if you've got just a lettings business, you can just sell lettings, and that would be worth more than it would be if you have a estate agency as well. So we're seeing a lot of businesses at the moment and just selling their lettings part of their business and retaining a sales, because they believe that over a 2-year period, and they do, will receive more income over that 2-year period than they would if they got on an exit. So I was just trying to think of one that's recent. So Smart Homes in Birmingham, that's what he's done. He's just sold his lettings portfolios, retained his sales. There's probably about 30 or 40, I could probably say, in the last 18 months, that's what they've done. The reason why I say, James, is having this holding co, it's all about tax.
Okay.
So if you were to just sell lettings at the minute, and your business was all Noonan Estates Limited, and you had everything in, and you just sold lettings, you would have to pay capital gains tax on that.
Wow,
and obviously that has increased quite a lot. Whereas this is another reason why a lot of businesses are looking to exit at the moment. So Labour have just changed the name of it. It's called Business Asset Disposal Relief. It's basically Entrepreneurs Relief. They've just changed the name. But that was 10%. It then, from the 6th of April this year, has gone to 14%. So to sell via a share sale, you're paying an extra 4% in tax. And then from April next year, in 2026, it goes up by another 4%. So basically, in the space of 2 years, you're going from paying 10% BADR up to 18%. So that has a huge impact on if you're £1 million business, then that's an extra £80,000 you're paying in tax.
Gosh.
So this is why it's really important that you get really good tax advice right at the start, even 5 years before you're starting to exit, looking at what your profitability is, looking at how you can structure the business, unless you love paying money to HMRC. I hate it. But yeah, so it is really important to get the structure right. But if you create separate limited companies, you can then sell it off, and then you benefit from the BADR relief. Whereas if you just sell the asset, you'll be paying 26, 32%. So it's a big difference.
I was just going to ask something about structure from within the actual lettings business as well, or the sales business. So how important is that, Lucy? Because ultimately, we all might have decent sized portfolios, but if within the branch or the model, things are not ran very well, does that, I mean, it might be, it's probably an obvious answer, but how much does that affect value? Is someone coming along just buying the portfolio, or are they buying the structure within that company?
So they will buy the structure of the company, but ideally all the buyers are really wanting is the reoccurring income that comes from lettings.
Right, interesting.
So there would become a premium if you are just buying a lettings business. So ideally what you want to do is provide as much. So we as brokers, we value on turnover, but every buyer will value what's called EBITDA. They're valuing on profit. What profit can I get out of that business? And so an EBITDA valuation, we do an adjusted EBITDA, and buyers will do what's called an adjusted EBITDA valuation. It's basically adjusted profit. So what that means is Noonan Estates, as an example, I've got 2 offices at the moment and I'm paying 60 grand a year in lease costs. If that's optional of sale, then that means that buyer doesn't necessarily have to take on those lease costs. So automatically I'm putting 60 grand into my adjusted EBITDA valuation as a buyer. So the more than which you can provide the buyer with options of sale. So for lettings, for example, all you really want in that lettings business, in that limited company, is your staff, client accounting, your CRM system, and then if you've got a Topco, you can then recharge fees for marketing and your suppliers and things. But the more profitable you can make your lettings business and load everything into the estate agency business, you're making that business a lot more profitable, and that again is more attractive to buyers.
Interesting.
So what is, because I think I know this, is it earnings before interest or something, tax?
And amortization. I can't even say amortization.
Thing is, we've got quite a good spread of people that listen to this, haven't we? And we've got a good spread of members actually that are part of TCA. That there are some very, very, very successful letting agents that are part of TCA that are trying to add high-end sales to their business. But also equally, there's some very successful estate agents that are looking at adding lettings to their business. I mean, I probably put myself in that category because I'm setting up a lettings business. Like for someone that's listening to this, what's explain like I'm a 10-year-old.
It's basically your net profit before tax happens and you take your dividends and everything else. That's a simple thing. It's basically just profit. So when you get your statutory accounts and it has your profit line at the top, net profit, that's basically what it is. And then at the bottom, you see all these other things that your accountant does to offset your tax and all of these different things. And if you've got a loan, how that then moves. So all of that from an acquisition perspective isn't really taken into account because it will be different when the buying entity acquires it. So this is why then we want to be doing an adjusted profit level to then see what it would look like to the new buyer. And ideally, you want the turnover multiplier and the adjusted EBITDA multiplier to be within about a 20% region of each other.
So just to, I guess, put you on the spot a little bit then. So let's say, for example, I don't know, Joe Bloggs' high street office has been there for 20 years, charging, I don't know, 1% or less. Estate agency only, turns over 300 grand a year, makes, I don't know, 40 grand profit a year out of that. What I mean, it's not going to be worth a lot, but what's that? If someone's listening to this, what's that? What's a business like that worth with no lettings?
If it's a pure estate agency business, it's only worth the pipeline and the instruction register at the minute.
So that is, so if they've got a pipeline of 100 grand, that's the value of their business, basically.
75,000. So it's 75% of your SSTC pipeline and 25% of your instruction register.
And that's if you're a sales only agent.
For estate agents, and it's also not helped with the self-employed models that have come in and the franchise models that have come in, because there's less now. There's so many other estate agents. And even the SSTC pipeline. So I've just brokered one yesterday. I won't say exactly where, but the buyers were only offering 65% of the SSTC pipeline because their rationale in that area is it's taking longer and much harder to get the pipeline through, so they're paying less. Whereas lettings, it's
guaranteed, isn't it? Pretty much
two times easily on turnover. We're sometimes in central London at the moment 2.4 times. It's really strong for lettings,
and that's turnover. So basically, of all the management income, basically.
Yeah.
And so you touched on something there a second ago about self-employed, and I think we'll come on to buyers in a minute, but in terms of sellers, what's your? I mean, we're seeing the landscape change now with obviously EXP are a big player in the market in terms of self-employed. Lots of kind of growth has happened for them over the last 5 years, but you're seeing lots of places like TA UK, for example, merging with other agencies or acquiring other So I think the landscape is changing now. Is it from an armchair perspective, watching what's going on in the industry? Like, it's not always, because you had like LRG that would buy up, a portfolio of a small local agent locally. And that, from my perspective, I could be wrong, but the perspective and the market is shifted in terms of who's selling in the market and who's in the market. Because historically, I guess it would be, Joe Bloggs and Co. on the high street being bought up by a corporate, whereas now there's a bit of a land grab going on and acquisitions going on with, buying up the maybe smaller chain self-employed agencies to try and grow that model. Are you seeing a shift in who's selling now or not?
No. So being fully transparent, we don't sell pure estate agency businesses because we don't have the demand for it. So we get lots of people coming to us asking us to sell pure estate agency business, but I've got 11,000 buyers registered wanting to acquire lettings and estate agency businesses. So we do sell estate agency businesses, but we don't sell pure estate agency businesses.
Yeah.
So, we've got a huge demand for people and again, the main buyers in the market, they have a criteria to hit, and the majority of them at the moment, it has to be 50% of their turnover has to be lettings, and then 50% sales. If it's a really big business and we're talking like a profit of 1.5 million and above, then those metrics can be different. So, if you are 75% sales, but you're, consistently turning over 3-4 million a year, then there can be a value to that. And it's normally via an earn out over 2 years. So, but as a pure estate agency business, it's very, very difficult and very challenging to sell because the majority of the main buyers are all wanting lettings.
Yeah. Okay. And just on that, so you're saying that you wouldn't necessarily do with like the self-employed brokerages, if that makes sense. Like you wouldn't get involved in those sort of things.
Not at the moment, no.
Do you think that's where some of the market's going to go, or do you think it will? Because I can imagine some of those self-employed brokerages are also going to be doing lettings as well. They do offer that, and it's interesting to see whether you think that's the way it's going to go with acquisitions and mergers on that side.
I think it's a different type of acquisition, because what they're in effect is they're buying self-employed brokers.
Yes.
So they're not acquiring a brand, are they? They're acquiring the people.
Yeah.
And so I think TA UK is a very unique model. You haven't seen any of the other self-employed models acquiring.
No.
So that's them. That's their strategy. So I think it's unique to them, and I think it's a great idea. But you don't see any of the other self-employed models. EXP haven't acquired. Yopa haven't acquired. Estate agency businesses. So it's just a recruitment way, in my opinion. But we just don't have the. Even if a buyer wants to acquire an estate agency business, if they need funding, they would find it very difficult to get funding.
So can I ask you then, just to drill down on the buyers bit, who's buying at the moment then? Who are the buyers?
Yeah, so this is really different to what it was. So 10 years ago, when I started in acquisitions, there was really only three main buyers in the market, the main corporates. So it was LSL and Connell. So I was at LSL. Connells did 34 acquisitions. We then did 36, and it was we were battling basically between each other to try and there was obviously independent agents always acquiring, there always is, and franchise networks, but predominantly that we were the two main buyers in the industry. And then there was LRG, Leaders Romans, that were starting. Now the market's completely changed, and the main reason for that is equity funding has entered into our space. So LRG are equity funded, Lomond are equity funded. So it was when I was at Lomond, we were owned by Lloyds Banking Group. So basically, we're given a few $100 million. Lloyds Banking Group gave us a criteria. As long as we acquired and it hit that criteria, we were given more. And that's the same. And they've now gone through a refinance to an American funder. But there's lots of other American funders. So there's a French equity funder called Ameria. They acquired Chesterton's. There's Swedish. There's French. There's all sorts of different funders. And what that's done is that's then created more demand in the market that we've got, particularly in London. So the deals that we're brokering now, we'd probably the deal I was just mentioned yesterday that we brokered. I probably have expected this time 3 years ago, maybe 2-3 offers. I got 6 offers.
Wow. And
they've all gone over. So this is why it always then helps to drive value. It's like, I'm basically an estate agent selling estate agents and letting agents. It astounds me. I'm just seeing in the press this morning that an agent has sold direct to a buyer. And I'm just like, you have literally probably outsold yourself. And obviously people are going to say, I'm going to say that. But we
would say that as well, though. I think there's agents and there's agents, isn't there? And there's always going to be that client that uses purple bricks because they've saved a few quid.
Yeah, of course.
The bottom line is how much have they lost? It's not what you pay; it's the end result in your pocket.
So we're a business. Well, we sold Keaton's that went 18% over guide price because we had 6 offers competitively bidding against each other. And it would, if it had gone direct, they would have never have done that. So that is where the market has definitely shifted. But we also do sell to independents. So funding has become much more accessible than it did 18 months ago. So it's not as expensive, the way in which you structure. But it's all about the demand, the supply in the market, where you are in the country. But yeah, it's definitely the amount of buyers. I mean, in the space of 3.5 years, me going, we've got 11,000. I've got one person solely works full time on managing our buyers, registering buyers.
Nice. Can I ask you a quick question then on that? So I think it's important to get across because obviously, we're passionate on the value add that we give to clients and what people should give to clients. So from your perspective, if someone's listening to this, what value does Atomic and what do you add to someone to say, rather than them going direct, what does it look like? What's the value add for using someone that knows what they're doing and is an expert like you? Might sound like an obvious thing to say, but
no. So I think I obviously was a buyer before launching Atomic. We know most of my team have come from acquisitions or the letting space. So we know what buyers are looking for. So we do spend quite a lot of time packaging up businesses for sale. So people will ask us, why are you asking that question? It's because I know when I worked at LSL and Lomond what the criteria were, and this is what we want. So we want to present your business in the best possible light. I personally think you've got one shot to maximise the value of your business. It's again like a house sale. If it keeps going up for sale and coming back, it doesn't look attractive. But we'll also support the seller the whole way through. You know, most business owners have never ever sold a business, so they don't understand heads of terms, the purchase agreement, indemnities, warranties, restrictive covenants, deferred consideration. We then walk through that and also manage. It's not just you're going to get £1 million for your business. How much are you going to get up front? What is deferred? What is important to you? Do you want to work in the business to support that? There's lots of different things that we will work with you and say, right, you say what is the ideal for you, and we'll hopefully try and get that. And then we'll project manage the acquisition the whole way through to completion. So we're quite different from other brokers in the fact that we don't just broker the deal and agree it. We'll actually support the seller all the way through right to completion. Explain all the things that on the legal side, get involved if there is a commercial challenge that needs to be sorted. And genuinely as well, I think we're just very honest and trustworthy, and being in the industry this long, I think the industry is quite small. People have got behind me, and have just really championed what we've done, and we've delivered a great service. And again, we were just talking about it yesterday. We just sold, so Keaton's is our largest brokered deal to date. That was a 9-branch agency in East London. But off the back of that, we're now getting a lot of businesses around in that area of East London. And it's a bit like boards breed boards in a estate agency. Yeah. We completed on Miles and Bar, the largest estate agency in Kent last year. Since that in October, I think we've sold 6 businesses in Kent. So again, I think as well, just our reputation and people seeing what we've been able to achieve and the values that we've been able to achieve for clients has then just allowed us to continue being successful. But I never in a million years thought we'd be doing what we're doing now. But it's good.
So in terms of another question I've got then, so if, say, for example, I have, I've got a few quid in the bank, or I've got someone that has said, look, I'll back you, or a funder that says, look, you need to grow. Like, what would you do I suppose like we would do for a client, like find an agency to buy? Like, would you approach somebody on their behalf?
No, because every buyer asks us to do that on an exclusive basis. So no, but if you do find your own acquisition and that we have no conflict of interest with it, we do offer a buyer project management service. So we will value it, structure an offer, and then project manage the whole way through. So we do offer that. But if it's a seller that we've already engaged with or it's on the market, then we wouldn't, obviously, because there's a conflict there.
Yeah. That's cool. Okay. And so with things like rising national insurance costs, and obviously you've mentioned the capital gains tax changes, how are these sort of pressures translating into sort of deal flows now?
So I'd say 5 years ago, 70% of agencies that were selling were retirement. I'd probably say that's less than 50, maybe even 40% now.
Oh, wow.
So yes, there's always.
Why do you think that is? Do you think that is because of those changes, or
I think recruitment has been a really difficult challenge, particularly in high value areas. So London, for an example, to get a good property manager, you're having to pay 35,000. If you've got a portfolio over 150, all of these costs, lease costs. The profitability of businesses has become more challenging, particularly with all of the extra costs that we're having to pay. So a lot of business owners struggle to recruit, or if they recruit and train, they then lose them because the resource pool is hard. So the seller is having to then go back in operationally and work in the business. I think COVID's had an impact. I think a lot of people have just, fallen out of love with the industry. We've got a lot of sellers at the moment that are moving abroad. And finding a different challenge. I'm going to go and work in Dubai and sell real estate out there. We've done I think 3 or 4 this year. So there's lots of different reasons why people sell. But is it affecting the demand for businesses? No, we're not seeing that. Instead, it's the opposite at the minute. So it's a bit of a perfect storm at the minute. I've never ever. I was talking to another broker last week. We've never seen values being achieved the way they are at the minute. And I don't think it'll stay. if I'm not in
lots
all
of people
honesty.
buying up, and it seems to be, from what you're saying, it seems to be a lot of people kind of almost hoovering up the maybe smaller agencies, and also the bigger agencies sort of making that merge. And I think the landscape's been changing for a while, hasn't it? With self-employed, and I think COVID has had a huge impact on in estate agency in general, and even just working life. Working from home, flexibility, those kind of things have all been positives to have come from COVID.
Well, I won't go if it's fully positive. It depends on who you're recruiting, doesn't it?
Yeah, I suppose.
To recruit some young people, and they think working from home means just being at home, and it's I'm not watching you to watch Jeremy Kyle.
Laptop
Jeremy
in the
Kyle's not even
garden,
on
GMT
TV. That
at
just
10
shows how long ago I watched daytime TV. But but even in our space, we've really struggled to recruit. I think the more as you grow, that is a great part of your growing pain. But recruiting and retaining good staff and making sure they deliver the quality of service is really, really challenging. And particularly in the estate agency market at the moment, there's all these recruiters for self-employed and all of the different things. It's quite difficult to grow unless you're happy, being yourself and it being more a lifestyle business, which is what is attracting, I think, a lot of good agents to the self-employed models.
Obviously you buy and sell a lot of businesses. What would you say is one of the most common blind spots that you see that agents have when it comes to selling, and they go, "Oh,
they don't understand their finances." 100%.
And what does that look like in terms of when you say don't understand their finances, in terms of what goes in, what comes out, what's profit, or
I'd say 70% of the businesses that we value should have spent time on their management accounts and with their accountant understanding and getting the figures broken down properly. So a lot of estate agency and lettings will just have turnover. That's it. Turnover of 1.2 million. Great. What is broken? What is that turnover? What's sales? What's let only? What's managed? What's your commission on contractors? What's your rent protect? And they go, I don't know. We can't break that down. Well, I can't value your business as an accurate and as an informative way if your turnover's not breakdown, and your statutory accounts have to manage your management accounts, and your management accounts have to be broken down. So when it says marketing of 50 grand a year, what does that under marketing? What is included in that marketing? Is it right move? What is it that you do? Because going back, like I said, buyers value on profit. So they want to see what profit they can get out of it. If they can see marketing of 50,000, but go, actually, we've already got Rightmove and we don't need the office, so we're not going to need to pay that subscription. It's only going to be 25,000. 25,000 then goes to the bottom. That's then more profitable. It makes it more attractive. So the only thing I would say, if anyone, the one thing to take away from is really spend time on your accounts and get your financials, get your management information in order. If you get your management information in sorted, you'll not only get a higher value for the business, but it will go through quicker, and you'll be signing up to less indemnities and warranties into a purchase agreement. It's all about figures.
Dave, did you want to ask something? You look like you were going to ask something.
You kind of carried on and then answered it, but it was basically just that, really doubling down on that. So my business at the moment is all. So I've got lettings, I've got mid-range sales, and I've got high-end sales, and I've got finance as well. But the finance is separate. Burton James, which is high-end, is separate, and then we locate sales and lettings is all one business at the moment. And what I've massively picked up here is, to be honest, I was looking at restructure anyway with my accountant and doing. We've already got the holding company, but splitting sales and lettings, which is something we need to do. What's really just hit home there is really drilling down the financials and splitting up the individual costings within the lettings business itself. So I was just going to double down on that. So you are literally saying that the best way to protect the value of the lettings business long term is to keep it completely separate and really break down those costs, because that can make or break value at the end. Yeah.
So there's different multipliers for your management commission, your rent collect, let only. Renewals is a big one, because obviously with renters reform, are we going to be able, we don't know yet, it keeps changing. But, with renewals, that's difficult. And we do see a lot of letting agents doing renewals and setup fees in the same MI. And it's like, actually, ideally now I need to see that separated out. So, the more granular you can get down and you can say, right, the contractor commission, I've earned this, rent protection, I've earned commission, I've earned this, ancillary, any other ancillary fees that you provide, the more granular we can get, the far easier it is. And most of the CRM systems out there, if you set it up the right way, it will pull off the reports for you, but you've just got to work to get it there and make sure your accountant understands all the different revenue streams does come with different values.
Is there an optimum number of houses, or is it just the value of the book?
It's the value of. I find this really funny. I get asked this all the time. Everyone goes, "Oh, I want to get to 1,000 units and then I'm going to sell." Buyers don't care, really. There's a few buyers that want the number of units for various different reasons, but they're wanting to buy income.
Mm.
So, it's like we're just selling a portfolio in London. It's got 42 properties. It's on the market at 525,000. I've just launched one today in Worcestershire, and it's got 300 properties, and it's gone on the market for 525,000. Makes no difference the number of units. It's the value of the business, the income that is generating. So, but people get so fixated. I want to get to 1 million turnover. That's what you want to be looking at, is what is your turnover that you want to achieve, and how much you want to be looking at and going, right, I need 3 million as my exit strategy to achieve the lifestyle that I want to do. And don't get me wrong, I've only just done this myself. So I'm preaching to myself. My business coach says, well, where are you? I was like, I don't know, I'm 41. Well, when do you want to finish? And how do you need to build a business to that? And you do need to starting to work through that. But it's not about number of units. It's about what do you need at your exit strategy to live the lifestyle that you've worked really hard for, and then work back from there. And then don't focus on the number of units. Look at your management fees. So we spend quite a lot of time. We do consultancy with sellers that are looking to exit in 5 years. And, we're working with one at the moment, and his average fee is 8%. I've said you don't need to organically grow. You've got a great portfolio already. Let's just increase your fees from 8 to 10. That's going to increase your turnover by 200,000 just doing it that way. And Actually, as long as you position it right, you'll probably get a landlord leaving. It's probably the landlord that's probably the most difficult anyway. But you can harness and work your existing client base by delivering a great service, but have you done rent reviews? If you haven't, do a rent review, then you put the management fee up, because the landlord's still getting the same, or if not more. There's lots you can do with your existing business to increase the value of the business, but it's not about units, it's all about income.
Okay, and then the next one I was just going to say is, again, it's probably answered already, but is it when someone's looking at it, is it just looking at the number? Would they be potentially looking at spread of area with properties? Again, I've got my portfolio is a little bit spread. So where I'm based, I've not just got my portfolio in this particular little spot. It's quite all over North Manchester, really. Do people look at that and go, well, you've got 4 in that area, you've got 10 over there, you've got 20 over there. Does it need to be a little bit more structured in that respect? Would that add value, take value off?
Ideally, you want to be 20 miles radius of your postcode territory. But let's be honest, it's so difficult to organically grow that we see a lot of letting agents that have a portfolio spread quite far and wide. The issue that you have mainly with a larger portfolio spread is the amount of buyers we can go to market. So the franchise network is a perfect example. Most franchisees have a territory that they're allowed to operate from. So if your postcode is outside that territory and there's another franchisee in that other area, that buyer's restricted because he can't manage properties outside his own territory. So it doesn't make it unsaleable, and it probably won't affect the value to a certain extent, but it does affect the amount of buyers potentially that you can have the opportunity for.
Yeah, okay, makes sense.
I think there's be a few dreams that might be shattered where agents have got, certainly people I've spoken to, where they own estate agency businesses, sales only, and they're building this great business. But then the reality is in, 5, 10, 15 years time when they want to exit, and if they're just estate agency only, they're going to be disappointed, with what they're going to get for their business in the future, in terms of, if you're in their head, and again, a lot of people are quite naive to this, which I think is why it's such a great podcast, is that they're in, let's say, for example, you turn over 800 grand or you turn over 500 grand a year, and, you come into the end of your journey and you're ready to retire, and you think to yourself, well, I'm turning over £500,000 a year, so 1.5 times turnover. My business is going to be worth 750. And then they get brought back down to earth with, listen to the podcast, 60-75% of their SSTC pipeline. All of a sudden 750 grand can become 180, 200 grand. And I think what I'm asking you now is, if somebody is 5, 10, 15 years ahead of, potentially their exit plan, if they've got one, some people don't even have one, but if they are building for the future, would you say the best thing that they could do now would be to look to build a lettings business?
Yeah, but if you are purist, if you are an estate agent and you love estate agency, then, it doesn't mean that you can't build a great exit strategy, but actually via acquisition, via the sale of your business in 15 years' time may not be the right thing. So there's loads of things that you can do if you work with a good tax advisor, a good wealth manager, IFA. They can work with you to make sure, SIP, if you've got commercial properties, can you put offset? There's loads of things you can do. And an estate agency business can be a lifestyle business, and you can still grow it and you can still get that turnover to achieve your option. What it just means is you're not going to potentially get the value that you believe the business is in estate agency, but there is still a value to estate agency. And this is why you're seeing a lot of estate agents and letting agents only selling lettings and keeping estate agency for 2 years, because they're going, do you know what? I might as well keep it for 2 years because I'll earn $1 million a year in turnover from it. And I'm actually only going to get 500,000 if I sell it. So I'll just keep it for another 2 years run, and then I'll just wind it down. So I don't want people to think that there is no value, but from an acquisition, from a sale perspective, yes, lettings is where you need to be. But we do see a lot of estate agency businesses, particularly when they've had great years, have used it as a lifestyle business and then have not made sure that they've not got the right corporation tax. They've not set aside all of that tax for the next year, and then they're lumbered with this massive tax bill, and then the following year it's not that great. So really, being a business owner and having your own estate agency, it is really important that you're working with a really good accountant. So like my accountant now, she is really strict with me. She's like, you can only take this out a month. And then at the end of the tax year, our year end is October, then we can do something. And she tells me, I've got to put this aside for corporation tax. I've got to do this for my, all my different things. And we're quite regimented. And I've now put money into high business interest savings accounts. There's loads of different things that you can do. I've got a trust fund for my daughter's school fees. So all of these things I've had to spend time working through, but also then working for the future. And it's exactly the same for you guys, making sure you're working with someone that really has got your best interests at heart, and that you're making sure that getting the money work for you. But we see it all the time where there'll be like a profit of 400,000 and the directors have taken 380 grand out. Yeah. And then the next year, it's a loss-making business. And you're like, what did you do there? We had an extension, or we did this, or we did that. It's just like, It's great if you can, if you're consistent. If you're doing that in lettings, crack on, because you're guaranteed it's residual. But estate agency, it isn't. And that's the other issue, is if you've got loss-making years, massive profit, funders don't like it. So again, if you want an estate agency business to be more saleable, you've got to have the same profit line, and it's got to be going up gradually. I was
going to ask one more thing just on that before I ask another question, was that obviously it seems to be you either sales or lettings, or sales and lettings. Dave is quite unique in one way that he's got an FS business. Do you think building an FS business for agents is underutilized, and do you see it a lot?
Yeah, I think FS is a really good way and there's different buyers for financial services, and you do get good multipliers for financial services businesses. But what's really important is you need it separated. And we see this a lot. So there's a lot of businesses that will have a commercial surveying department, financial services, agricultural, sales and lettings. They're all different buyers potentially. If it's all under one limited company, it's going to be very difficult for it to sell. So financial services is great. And it's a great revenue income stream, and also of prop fees and reoccurring. It's got reoccurring income, which is attractive to buyers. But it's a different set.
Can I ask a quick question on that? On the FS? So what's the FS multiplier then? What does that look like?
It can range massively. We've only done one. It's not our area of expertise, so I wouldn't want to say, but I know that it's highly valuable. It's something that we may go into in the future, but there's enough letting agents to keep me busy at the minute.
That's cool. Well, listen, I mean, I've learned so much from you being on here, and I'm sure a lot of the people listening will have done the same. And I know you've been on a couple of different podcasts. I want to almost put you on the spot a little bit. What's a question that no one's asked you yet that you'd like someone to ask you?
Oh my God. I don't know. Most people have asked me most questions. I think people don't ask me how I'm finding running a business, because actually that is a big change. So I've always been employed up until October 21, set off in my bedroom. And actually having your business is a very different, it comes with its own challenges. It can be quite lonely, can be really isolating at times. It panics, especially when you start growing a team. You're responsible for salaries, financials, like I know I keep going back to it, but you know, you get your first corporation tax bill, which people say it's good if it's big, but you think flipping egg, you know, all these different things, you know, moving offices, making business decisions. You know, it's been great and I'm not complaining, but you know, in October 21 up until beginning of this year, I put 3 stone on. Because all I was doing was just work, and the pressure, and I was wanting to prove everybody wrong. I was wanting to prove myself I could do it, and I was enjoying it, and I love what I do, but I wasn't looking after myself. And I have made some significant changes this year, because actually I couldn't keep putting a stone on every year I was doing business. I wouldn't have been able to get through the door. But I do think sometimes people look at the outside, and social media is a great thing, isn't it? And it goes, oh, they're smashing it, it's great. But actually, has been great. But I have found it really difficult. You know, I find it very difficult to switch off. Can
I ask you then, what's, and again, you don't have to answer this, I can edit this out if it really is. What's been your, I suppose, your biggest challenge since becoming a business owner? And what has it taught you? Getting
the right team, 100%.
Right bums on the right seats.
Yeah, definitely. I've got a great team now, and we're recruiting again at the moment. But finding the right roles as well for them, because I'm not the best manager. I never have been. I like doing my thing, and I'm very good at that. But cultivating and asking everybody, how are you in the morning, and having a 20-minute, that's just not me. I get in and I'm off. And, you know, I'm having to learn that actually you've got to be nice, and you've got not nice, but, you know, you've got to do all of those things as well. But yeah, finding the right team is definitely, so I've got a brilliant team now, but it has been really difficult. That has been my biggest challenge. We've had 4 people do a role in 3 years that's not worked out for various different reasons. So I've now realised that role is not right. So we've had to check. We're in the process at the moment of doing some structural changes to make sure that doesn't happen. But I think that's
testament to your management, though, like doing that, recognising that.
Yeah. But you know, people are our biggest asset, but can be also our biggest challenge. And you know, ultimately, what in lettings and estate agency, we're not selling a product, we're selling a service, and ultimately that is our team. And if you don't get that team right, then you know, if your service isn't there, I don't personally think you've got a business for very long. So, you know, that is something I'm really passionate about, is making sure that you're constantly delivering a good service. So, yeah, getting the right team is hard, but we're not recruiting great people to our sector at the minute. It's not attractive enough.
I think recruitment can be quite difficult. I don't want to go down too much down a rabbit hole, but I think recruitment, it can be quite difficult in general, to be honest. I think expectations of your average Joe have changed in terms of, you know, what they expect. You know, sometimes, you know, I've interviewed people in recent times that it almost feels like they want 85 grand a year, work 3 days a week, and get 48 days holiday. Do you know what I mean? Company trip to Marbella every 2 weeks. You know, it's not the real world. You have to graft, don't you? That's sometimes, you know, I know it's sort of extreme, but that's kind of sometimes how it feels. And I've almost, a lot of the people that the last 3 people I've recruited have been intentional. But prior to that, a lot of the people that I've recruited have just kind of happened, where, you know, people say you go out for something to eat and you give somebody a card, you know, and you think, oh, that was good service, I'll take that. A lot of the people that work in my business, we've had some form of relationship with, in terms of, you know, we've sold their house, or, you know, well, it's, to be fair, it's mainly that we've sold their house or been involved with, in them through the process, either directly or indirectly. Like Sandra, who was my sales progression manager, I was going to say progressor, not Sean Connery. She sold her house through us, and she was such a lovely pain in the arse that I thought when the time comes to recruit a progressor, like she'd be perfect because she's lovely, and she's now our stylist. She's moved out of that role, but it's just sometimes you good people come from random places, and I think the phrase is, you can train skills, but you just need to hire for attitude ultimately, and that's the way it goes. So look, you've been an amazing guest. I appreciate we've taken up an hour of your time now.
All right.
Thank you so much for bearing with Gary Neville, and it's been a while since you've met him.
Only once for 10 minutes.
With his microphone in front of his
He's
face.
Probably got my autograph somewhere on his wall.
And just before you go, a plug for you. Obviously, social media is how I know of you. You are very active on social media, whether it's been like TikTok dances or whether it's like LinkedIn articles. Like I know, I feel like I know you, but I've never spoken to you before from your presence. But if somebody is listening to this podcast and is interested in talking to you about buying or selling, how do they find you? What's the best way?
Just head to our website, atomicconsultancy.com, and they can inquire in there, and then either myself or one of the team will come with you. But we've got some great resources on there as well. So, definitely have a look. But if you want to
plug your online valuation tool as well, because you've got an online valuation tool to value an estate agency business, haven't you, on your website?
Yeah, we only launched that 2 weeks ago. So if you want to just have a good idea of an indicative value of what your business looks like, then it's literally just 5 key data points, and then you'll get a valuation within like a minute over to you. So
Yeah, perfect. Brilliant. Well, look, thank you ever so much for giving up your time to us today.
No, you're welcome. Really good to meet you virtually. And maybe Dave, he'll have his different microphone and he'll sort
I will try and get a new one next time.
No promises. Right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in, listening, and we'll see you next week.
Brilliant.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.